Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the case People v. Rideout. This case was heard in the Michigan Court of Appeals in the year 2006. Let's go ahead and jump into the facts of the case. So you can tell just by the name that this is a criminal case. It's the state of Michigan prosecuting Rideout. They prosecuted him for DUI leading to a death. Rideout was driving on a road very late at night, and Rideout had a BAC of 0.16, which is double the legal limit for alcohol content in your blood. Now, Rideout was in an accident with two gentlemen. We'll just call them R and K. R and K were in this car, and Rideout was in his car. They hit one another. Rideout, the cars separated. Now, the two gentlemen that were in their car were fine, but they wanted to go check on Rideout. So they walked over to check on the defendant, Rideout in this case. Rideout was fine. They had just a discussion with him. He seemed okay. So then they walked back over to their car. Now they were in their car. They were in some sense of safety, but the lights on their vehicle weren't working. So K and R went to go check on the lights. And while they were checking on the lights, another car came and hit K, and K was killed. So K died because another car came in and hit him while he was checking on the lights that were damaged because Rideout hit their vehicle with a high blood alcohol content level. So the trial court convicts Rideout of this offense, and the appellate court is discussing causation in this case. They're discussing but-for, so factual causation, and proximate causation. Now, but-for causation is just to say, but for Rideout hitting these people, K would not have been hit and killed. Now, that is a very easy test to satisfy, and the court says it's certainly satisfied in this case. If Rideout wouldn't have hit these gentlemen, then K wouldn't have been checked. They wouldn't have been stopped in the first place, and then they wouldn't have also been checking on their lights because their lights were out. So they wouldn't have gotten hit, and K wouldn't have gotten killed. So, but-for causation is satisfied. Now, the court says we also need to find proximate causation, analogous to proximate causation in tort. It is generally a doctrine of policy that's meant to limit liability or criminality from occurring when something happens and a cause that is so unforeseeable, so unexpected occurs that it's limited. The chain of causation is cut off because the cause is the effect is not proximate to the cause. So the court says that this conviction needs to be repealed, needs to be reversed, because there is not proximate causation in this case. Now, they say that there is not proximate causation, and they talk about 6 different factors. The 3 that they're going to kind of focus on are foreseeability, the apparent safety doctrine, and the voluntary human intervention doctrine. Okay, so foreseeability just generally says that if an effect is so unforeseeable from your action, then it's not proximate. We can't hold you liable. They say that's not really, we don't really want to dive too deep into the foreseeability argument here. So we're just kind of going to say, we don't really care too much about foreseeability. Let's look at the other 2 because those seem determinative. So look at the apparent safety doctrine. And the apparent safety doctrine says that if someone comes to rest in a safe place after you've caused some type of harm to them, then if they do something to leave that zone of safety, that zone of apparent safety, then your action that put them into the danger zone in the first place is not the cause of their actual harm. So let's apply that to this case. K and R were not in the zone of danger anymore when they came back to their car. When they walked across the highway to check on Rideout, they were in the zone of danger. And the court says if they would have been hit while crossing the highway to check on Rideout, then yes, Rideout should have been convicted because that is foreseeable. He put them in that zone of danger, and they weren't in safety. Now, the difference and the distinction here is that these 2 gentlemen came back to a zone of safety. They were on the side of the highway. They were in their car. And they voluntarily chose to leave that zone of safety when they walked around the car and put themselves in the roadway to check on the lights. So they say that is enough to limit the causation, to cut the chain of causation and say that it is not proximate in this case. Now, the second doctrine that they talk about is a voluntary human intervention. So they say that K and R acted voluntarily when they looked at the lights again. So for that reason, we can't convict Rideout of DUI with manslaughter, DUI with leading to a death. So the case is interesting because it shows that proximate cause in criminal law and mens rea are linked inextricably with one another, right? It's tough to say that Rideout meant to cause this type of a harm to these individuals. He didn't have the mens rea necessary to kill these men in this way. Now, he might have had the mens rea, be it reckless or negligent, to actually kill these men by driving drunk on the street. If he would have just hit their car and they died, then it's likely that we would have been able to convict him for that, because we could probably prove recklessness, we could probably prove negligence, because he was driving in a way that was a gross deviation from the reasonable standard of care. Now, it is not so easy to prove that in this case, because these two gentlemen were not killed by the original accident. They weren't killed when they needed to venture off the highway and get out of their car. They were killed when they made the one gentleman, K was killed when he made the voluntary decision to enter back into the roadway to check on the lights. And that voluntary decision, that exit from the apparent zone of safety, is enough to show that, hey, we're going to break the causal chain here. It's not proximate. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.